Good evening, everyone. Hopefully, you're having a wonderful day so far. I got a good one for you today. So, the Hogue report is out, and apparently, there was no traitors in Parliament found during the foreign interference inquiry. So, this from CPAC. But first, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. And with no further ado, let's get into it.
Andrew, good to see you. I know it's been a busy morning already for you, but I mentioned the allegation from that Incompetence report back in June, talking about witting participants among parliamentarians. The Parliamentary Watchdog Group essentially asking Justice Ogue to look into that allegation. What did she have to say there? Not an original part of her terms of reference, but added on, but obviously of great concern. What do we hear from Justice Ogue regarding that matter?
Right, Michael, right near the very start of this executive summary, which alone is 120 pages, that shows you the breadth of this report. But she does talk about this Incompetence report, and she does say that although the phenomenon, it does remain marginal and largely ineffective, that there's no cause for widespread alarms. She says she has not seen any evidence of traitors in Parliament plotting with foreign states to act against Canada. She goes on to say that although there are a few cases involving things like attempts to curry favor, again, she says that it remains marginal. She's not aware of any federal legislation or policies that have been enacted or repealed on account of foreign interference. She says that while some of these states' attempts are troubling, that there is some concerning conduct by parliamentarians, there is no cause for widespread alarm. And she says that it should not be overblown. She goes into some more detail later on about the Incompetence report, and she tells us that that report has no names of individual politicians and that her mandate as part of this commission does not involve passing judgment on the culpability of an elected official, even if there were individual names involved. And she goes on to say again that there are legitimate concerns about some of the conduct being reported in that Incompetence report. But of note, she says this: the report's wording has caused consternation, but it is unwarranted in some respects. The situation, Michael, is not as clear-cut or extreme as the fears have warranted.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, are you saying that Jagmeet Singh and Justin Trudeau both blew this out of proportion? Because remember, they both came out and said that this was very concerning stuff. And even Justin Trudeau came out and said that there was conservative names in there and some liberal names. And now Hughes is saying that there wasn't any names, that there are no traitors in Parliament, which I'm glad. I'm glad that, our Parliament is functioning foreign interference free. So that's exciting. But to be completely honest, it seems kind of weird that the leader of the NDP and the Prime Minister would come out and say that there are names on it and that it's very concerning. And now we're just given an overview report saying, oh no, it's not that bad.
So not as clear-cut as warranted concerns, but again, marginal. Obviously, a huge concern for Canadians, because when that Incompetence report, of that one line really took over the discussion, although we heard competing testimony regarding that conclusion from the Prime Minister, among them, who was pushing back on this idea of traitors within Parliament. So Justice Ogue saying that there are concerns, but marginal, very important for Canadians. Let's move on to the original terms of mandate, though, because really this was also convened to look into how the federal government responded to foreign interference. What does Justice Ogue have to say about that, Andrew?
Well, she says foreign interference and the threat of foreign interference has taken its toll on Canada. She does then say that Canada has been resilient and that our democratic institutions have held up well, but she does have criticism for how the federal government has responded. She says the government has sometimes taken too long to act and that coordination between the various players in the government has not always been optimal. She says the way in which information is passed throughout the federal government has often not been effective in terms of the information that needs to get to policy makers, in terms of getting to elected officials, that it hasn't flowed properly, that information has not always been adequately tracked or properly appreciated by the people who received it, and that inside the federal government there is some confusion about roles and accountability when it comes to the fight against foreign interference. Now, she does say that the government has made some strides over the past 2 years implementing new measures, and that the government is now prioritizing the fight against foreign interference. She says it must continue, but again, and these are the words that Justice Hall gives herself. So far, its efforts in regards of informing the public about foreign interference have been piecemeal and underwhelming.
Well, yeah, she has stated that this was on Justin Trudeau's desk, and he did know about this, all this stuff, and he did nothing. So, yeah, I think there is a little bit of a... how do you say it? A lax view on foreign interference in our federal government right now. Now let's move on to Justice Hoag's interview.
What must we retain from the Commission's work? Firstly, that certain foreign states are attempting to interfere in our electoral processes and democratic institutions. This is not a new phenomenon, nor should it surprise us. States have been trying to interfere with each other since the dawn of time. What is new, however, are the means being deployed by these states, the extent to which the phenomenon seems to be taking hold, and the fact that it is being talked about publicly. That said, and it is one of my most important observations, our democratic institutions have remained robust in the face of attempted foreign interference. Although there are a very small number of situations where foreign interference may have had some impact on the outcome of a nomination contest or the result of an election in a given riding, foreign interference did not impact the outcome of the last two general elections.
So she said it right there. It may have affected some general elections, so quite possibly some of the MPs were elected because of foreign interference in some places in Canada, but not the election of Justin Trudeau. That's what I gather from that.
Although a few situations involving attempts to curry favor or develop problematic relationship with a parliamentarian have come to light, such phenomena remain marginal and so far appear to have been largely ineffective. Some may have benefited from the support of a foreign state, sometimes without knowing anything about it. But again, so far, this does not seem to have led to any real gains for the states involved. Nor have I seen any evidence to suggest that there are currently so-called traitors in Parliament. While I saw evidence of some concerning behavior, the evidence does not show any MPs plotting with foreign states against Canada's interests. Alors maintenant, que faut-il retenir des travaux de la Commission?
What are the takeaways?
Well, I don't think the concern is that they're plotting against Canada. It's more concerns are that they're vouching for other countries, if that makes sense, right? So in votes, let's just take China as an example. And this is just an example. I think the concern is if an MP was elected with the help of Chinese foreign agents, and then when he's in Parliament, he'd egg on the government to do more trade with China, or if there was another what was his, the two Daniels or something. I can't remember their names, but another incident where Canadians get stuck in China. Well, then they just postpone them coming back, right? They're not against Canada, but they're more for another country, if that makes sense.
Must be retained from the Commission's work. Firstly, that certain foreign states are attempting to interfere in our electoral processes and democratic institutions. This is not a new phenomenon, nor should it surprise us. States have been trying to interfere with each other since the dawn of time. What is new, however, are the means being deployed by these states, the extent to which the phenomenon seems to be taking hold, and the fact that it is being talked about publicly. That said, and this is one of my most important observations, our democratic institutions have... Nevertheless, we must remain vigilant, because the threat of foreign interference is real, and even if the impact has been limited so far, it is damaging to our democracy, and it greatly affects those who are victims. Canada has responded to the increase in attempted foreign interference by putting in place numerous measures and mechanisms to better detect, prevent, and counter it. I describe these measures and mechanisms in detail in the report. However, the government sometimes took too long to act, and coordination was not always optimal. The means used to communicate information to certain decision-makers, including elected officials, proved imperfect. Sometimes very imperfect, since certain documents never got to where they were supposed to go, and there seems to be no good reason why. Above all, what I found is that the government has been, overall, a poor communicator when it comes to foreign interference.
Yeah, wasn't there a report saying that Justin Trudeau doesn't particularly read his emails? And that goes for quite a few people in cabinet. So, how can you communicate with a guy who isn't listening? Right? Because all of this had to go across Justin Trudeau's desk, so he had to know of all of this and just did nothing. Like she said, okay, it's not that bad, but still, this has taken, 2 years? And has probably been going on way before this investigation or the Incompetence report ever came out, and the government just let it go on.
Responded to the increase in attempted foreign interference by putting in place numerous measures and mechanisms to better detect, prevent, and counter it. I describe these in detail in the report. However, the government sometimes took too long to act, and coordination was not always optimal. The means used to communicate information to certain decision makers, including elected officials, proved imperfect. Sometimes, very much so, since certain documents never got to where they were supposed to go, and there seems to be no good reason why. But above all, I found that the government has been overall a poor communicator when it comes to foreign interference. La plupart des Canadiennes et des Canadiens ont...
Most Canadians first learned about foreign interference through media reports, without the government being the source of the information communicated. This should not have been the case. The government needs to better inform the public, and it needs to be more transparent. Of course, sometimes the government is justified in keeping its operations and knowledge secret.
Oh, because this government has been so transparent and so trustworthy. We've had more ethics scandals than every other prime minister before him.
And in matters of national security, sometimes it is essential for the government to keep things secret. But the government must find ways of keeping the public informed to prevent a loss of confidence, public confidence, in our institutions. The measures put in place over the past 2 years and the evidence I heard on the subject suggests that the government is now making the fight against foreign interference a high priority.
Government has the primary responsibility for ensuring national security and protecting our democratic institutions. But what I have read and heard convinces me that society as a whole must contribute to defending these institutions if we want to ensure their survival. Foreign actors are no longer content to use traditional means to interfere. They are also using sophisticated technological means and increasingly sowing disinformation in traditional media, but above all on social media. Distinguishing what is true from what is false is becoming increasingly difficult, and the consequences are, in my view, extraordinarily harmful. The impact of traditional methods should not be underestimated, but the greatest threat, the one that I believe threatens the very existence of our democracy, is disinformation.
And this is why I want to show you guys something that us 90s kids watched on the mainstream media that they used to put out because of misinformation and disinformation. Here's a PSA, The House Hippo.
It's nighttime in a kitchen just like yours. All is quiet. Or is it? The North American house hippo is found throughout Canada and the eastern United States. House hippos are very timid creatures and are rarely seen, but they will defend their territory if provoked. They come out at night to search for food, water, and materials for their nests. The favorite foods of the house hippo are chips, raisins, and the crumbs from peanut butter on toast. They build their nests in bedroom closets, using lost mittens, dryer lint, and bits of string. The nests have to be very soft and warm. House hippos sleep about 16 hours a day.
That looked really real, but you knew it couldn't be true, didn't you? That's why it's good to think about what you're watching on TV and ask questions, kind of like you just did. A message from Concerned Children's Advertisers.
So yeah, that was put out by the government on pretty much every single channel, telling us, hey, think about what you're watching. And now we don't get that. Now we have this foreign interference thing going around, and then we have Justice Hugh telling us that the same thing's happening now with misinformation than what was happening in the 90s.
This threat is all the more nefarious because the means available to counter it are limited and very difficult to implement. Nevertheless, we must not give up, but rather attack it forcefully altogether. This cannot be the sole purview of government. It will not work. Les acteurs étrangers ne se contentent plus d'utiliser.
Foreign actors are no longer content to use traditional means to interfere.
We just watched The House Hippo. It's not that hard. All you gotta do is when you watch something, you think about it, and then you ask questions. And then you research it on a powerful thing we know as the internet. Now, if she's saying the misinformation and the disinformation of this are the leaders of our country, then yeah, that's pretty bad, because remember, Jagmeet Singh and Justin Trudeau came out and said that what they read on this NSICOP report was very disturbing. And there were a lot of names of MPs on there. Anyways, the videos go on a little bit long, and the rest is just her speaking the same thing in French. But I implore you to watch the whole video, and the link to it's in the description below. And let me know what you think. Do you think our government handled this fiasco well? And what do you think of the Hugh report? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to donate to the channel, there's a Buy Me a Coffee link down below. And memberships are turned on the channel if you do want to donate. And every little bit goes right back into the channel. Other than that, have a good day.